Another game, another loss for the Bucks. We recap the season series against the Washington Wizards and wrap up a hectic week off the courts on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia, joined by Frank Madden. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day, each and every day, and for helping make the Locked On Network the #1 podcast network in the industry. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Frank, the season series against the Wizards mercifully comes to an end as the Bucks go 1-3. Hey, at least Miles Turner looked pretty good once again, and Pete Nance played in this one.
You know, in that first half, I was sitting there thinking, you know, the only thing that can stop the Bucks tank at this point is Pete Nance minutes. But no, he gave them good minutes. I mean, showed a little bit of bounce too. Like he maybe is a little bit more Nance-like family. You know, got the dad, his dad and brother are supposedly the athletes in the family. But he had some athletic moments tonight as well. And yeah, I feel like I'm like spending most of the first part of this podcast giggling. We're very deep into laugh or cry territory with the 25-26 Milwaukee Bucks. You know what really made me laugh? When you mentioned the first listen every day piece of the intro, it just occurred to me like, man, like shout out to anybody who is actually wants to make the Milwaukee Bucks part of the first thing they listen to in the morning.
Well, I mean, I choose to view it as like maybe they're like, do I want to put on CNN or screw it? Let's just go to Locked On.
I mean, yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's not a banner time for sports in Wisconsin right now. So, you know, the Brewers at least have had a few months since their like horrendous end to their season. So the Brewers are the most favored nation right now in terms of Wisconsin sports. I don't know. I guess the Badgers, I guess, right? The Badgers have been decent, but not Marquette for sure. I don't know how the Wave and Admirals looking this year, Justin. Yeah, Locked On Wave. Do we pivot to the Locked On Milwaukee Wave? I don't. There are probably people like listening to this who are like, you know, not from Wisconsin, who may not know the indoor soccer team, the Milwaukee Wave.
Locked On Mustangs. We'll do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Arena Football League team from like the mid-90s.
From the era that we may be headed back towards for the Bucks. Yeah. We might as well kick off Locked On Mustangs. Yeah, Pete Nance looked good. Pete Nance played. Let's just there's that. That's a big step forward.
Ryan Rollins, slow start.
Ryan Rollins,
you know, like started to get his little step back game, his long 3 game going, which is pretty much, you know, like the rest of this season is pretty much just me hoping Ryan Rollins puts up stats. You know, I mean, aside from like rooting for people to put up stats for trade value purposes, like I'm sure, you know, people are partly watching like the Miles Turner, Bobby Portis stuff, like hoping they're good to kind of juice their trade value a little bit. Although I don't know, like I will say it philosophically, I mean, it's been a minute since I've been on the pod. Like I still, and this was true in like, you know, 2013, 14 and other years where they were really bad. I can't not root for them when I'm watching the games. When the shots go up, I hope the Bucks shots go in. I hope the opponent's shots go out. But I know in the back of my head that, like, you know, there's a greater.
But I know in the back of my head they are not.
I know that there's a greater calculus here that, you know, it's probably not in their interest to be winning games. So anyway, yeah, there's that, Justin. So, but yeah, nice to see Miles Turner. Miles Turner's a good person. I want to see good things happen to good people. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the extent of this game itself, and we might have a lot of these post games. So that'll do it for today.
Khris
Now,
Middleton got to enjoy beating his former team again.
again,
He's probably, is Khris feeling like, the little the meme of the little girl like smiling kind of
in the
evilly
foreground,
the burning house behind her. Like, I feel like that's Khris Middleton right now. And shout out to Khris. He deserves it. I'm sure he's like probably amused at Doc Rivers, like, being engulfed in the flames of what he has wrought.
Words of Frank.
Yeah.
And I would assume too, like when the schedule was set, like Amazon
How was this ever
targeted this and said like, well, that's close to the 1 year anniversary of the big Kuzma for Middleton trade. So let's revisit it. And that's going to be the next show. Okay.
We wasted a Kevin Harlan Bucks broadcast on this game of all games. Although shout out to Kevin Harlan. He kept saying that they were not booing, they were saying Kuz. And I guess part of me is like, I don't know, like if you're a Wizards fan, like how like are you that motivated to boo Kyle Kuzma? Like you were. It's not like he like asked for a trade and you like felt disrespected or something like that. You weren't going to be good regardless of what Kuz was doing when he was here. I don't know. It's like I feel like everybody has a complicated relationship with Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, so that was kind of amusing. But yeah, the Bucks having all these national TV games as they're just completely going down in flames is I like it. I like it, Justin, because a lot of my emotions right now are just sort of like annoyance at like I'm like not listening to like any of the, like every podcast is like Giannis suitors, Giannis packages, and I'm just like I'm not listening to any of this. Like I'm sitting this out. You guys can do your war profiteering, right? But this is my franchise. These are my emotions, God damn it. Like I'm not participating in this. I of course am interested in, the substance of the conversation, but whatever. I don't feel like I'm going to learn anything. We can talk about my general views of kind of where the Bucks are and Giannis trades and all that, but
I'm just curious how many times we can see the same podcast title on these shows per week of like 7 possible Giannis trades, or exploring the best Giannis trades.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was Thursday. What are we doing on Tuesday?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that like kind of annoys me is, and I mean, this isn't true of like a lot of the like reasonable, especially a lot of the podcast folks who I, know from kind of growing up in the blog / podcast world. A lot of good people, but it's like some of this, like there's so much like the Bucks have to trade Giannis sort of like energy, and it's just kind of like it just feels like so much of this is just like people are just annoyed that they have to talk about the Bucks at all, and so it's just like get this over with. I'm sick of like dealing with this. And look, I understand that general sentiment, but like that's not sufficient rationale for me as a Bucks fan. Like just be honest, like in New York or wherever, like just because you guys are sick of talking about the Bucks, like no, forget that.
Without name, and so we'll take a break here and then we'll dig into your thoughts on that as we haven't caught up since then. But without naming names, I mean, there's a lot of bull crap that is out there, but it's going to be very low on how much, if I could like power rank, what am I actually taking and putting stock into here? Maybe the lowest is going to come from the same individual that was the person that we saw the Clippers run to, well, actually we didn't circumvent and ran with the story of, LeBron James actually didn't tell Lakers to draft Bronny. Like they just chose to do it. And then a day later, like there's this Warriors package is insane. How do you not take that if you're the Bucks? So feels like we got a lot of that. That's
yeah.
right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think like Right, and this is well, let's take the break and then we can talk about it because like certainly the quality of like trade packages and is a big part of my general kind of not changing stance on this whole topic.
All right, we'll take a break. The trade packages and Frank's thoughts on it. We'll get into that coming up next. But it's time to talk to you about our friends now over at Game Time. It's almost time. Time to get to an NBA game. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so easy. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It's putting the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game. You get tickets loaded within minutes. You see upfront prices, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. You can even see a view from the seat before you make the decision to buy. Zone deals, so you choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Great last-minute options are out there, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. All in all, everything's quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That is code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. All right, so these packages that are, like, first of all, Frank, like this is the thing I hate the most too about not only the like every show is doing this now, like, oh, it's episode 3 of what's the best Giannis trades that are out there, and let's rehash where should they trade him.
This is our corner, Justin. Like, okay, like I mean, yeah, we're gonna talk about it, but guess what? Like, you guys,
you weren't invited.
To quote the great Brian Colangelo, it's a normal sized collar, find a new slant, you know?
Okay. So I also like, oh, what about this like this package? Which, like, the fact that we're going with which team has the best package, like we don't even know who's in on this and who's been offered. So like, let's just randomly pluck, well, what about this, and this? Like, all right, if this is what we got to look forward to for the next handful of months, let's just get it over with. But the momentum that has been swirling from one corner of, I mean, first of all, some of these offers that have been cobbled together where it's like, how do you not take that? I mean, you don't want this player and we're going to give you help 7 years from now. Like, this is clearly the best offer. Like, take it or leave it now because we're taking the offer off the table in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I saw like multiple references to the like a Warriors trade package involving, you know, Jimmy Butler's like limp cold body, ACL-less limp
I
cold
love
body.
the ones too that spin it as like he's got Milwaukee ties. So
yeah, he ended our franchise in 2023. Yeah, it's usually like what, like Pajemski. Hey, Wisconsin boy.
Jonathan Kuminga, which is basically like, I've been trying. I keep forgetting to take this sweater to Goodwill, but let's see if I can sell it to the neighbor for $50 instead.
It was totally fitting when he like left the game with that. It sounds like it's not season ending, but he has like an injury now too, which is just great for them. Yeah, and it's just sort of one of those things. It's just like all the like Warriors picks, you know, 3-4 years from now. I mean, they could be very good.
It is something
whatever,
that
but
ordinarily I would bet on that. Like in another scenario, I would bet on it. They just can't do it because of what they have between now and then.
You will give them Kyle Kuzma for multiple unprotected long-term future first-round picks, but you know, it's a little bit different situation. Yeah, so I mean, here's my kind of view on this, right? And like I don't even really know how to characterize like the Giannis pseudo non-official trade request, whatever has been communicated. I mean, I think clearly like the Bucks seem to be listening to offers in a way that, you know, they wouldn't have
They were not
previously.
convened before. Yeah.
Right. Now, what that even means, right? Like, you know, like you used to make me bad offers and I quote unquote didn't listen to them, and now I listen to them. I don't like, you know, what
Or
really is the
like, I'll
difference?
listen, but I'm not saying yes to any of these trades. So go
Yeah.
ahead. Let's hear it.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's very rich for the, you know, fans of the team to look down their noses at like your crappy trade packages. Like, of course, like, you know, this is what Bucks fans are going to do, is they're going to say none of these packages are good enough for Giannis. And the other team is going to say, well, Giannis, he's 31 years old. You know, he's got a couple of calf injuries. Like, what can you
When's the last time he
like?
got
He's
out
going
of
to
the
be
first round?
right. He's going to be a $70 million a year guy. Like, this guy looks like we'll do you a favor.
We're saving you paying him.
Yeah,
like, if anything, you should give us a first rounder.
You know, so it's just like these, you know, like stupid pissing contests that, you know, fan bases can have about, you know, how much a guy is worth, isn't worth, whatever. So I mean, like, I'm just going to acknowledge that. So as I say that, I just don't think these trade packages are compelling. I acknowledge that I am a Bucks fan. But I would say this as well. I mean, if like, and I think we've even talked about this a while ago, but like, if Atlanta was actually like offering the New Orleans pick and Jalen Johnson, or, you know, I mean, you could argue even like not Jalen Johnson, but I mean, unfortunately, reshape is like obviously,
but like the New Orleans pick multiple picks,
picks, including like a premium, like unprotected, really high pick this coming loaded draft where you actually like know you have a good sense of like,
like, we could have one and two in this.
Yeah, like this is actually like a very tangible thing, and it hedges your downside risk of your own pick, right? Because if they flip flop, then you still get the better of the two. Like if that was in play, then like, oh, okay, like that's a really compelling deal given the scenario. And like I would totally understand the Bucks saying, like, you know what, if Giannis is like basically saying he's out of here, then I couldn't fault the Bucks for taking that deal, right? You know, I don't think like the Bucks with Jalen Johnson and, you know, hopefully a nice young star. I mean, they're probably not going to do anything for a while and probably never win a championship. You know, like whatever. But like at least you're like interesting, and you know, like I think part of, and it sort of annoys me because like I think we should be upfront about it. Like there's definitely a lot of people who want to make a trade because like they're just uncomfortable with like it's unpleasant right now. Like, oh, I don't like the fact that like it feels like we should be good, and being like, you know, mediocre to bad with Giannis isn't nice, and so I can't enjoy it, and I'd rather just be like bad with like young guys who don't have anything close to Giannis's ceiling. Loser mindset. But also I understand it. I get it. Like we don't follow sports so that like we can be miserable and have like, you know, people kicking dirt on our franchise.
Are we sure? Have you seen the teams that we follow in this team?
Yeah, I mean, hey, we didn't choose them, they chose us. And you know, obviously part of this is, I mean, as much as I love Giannis, like this is, I mean, people who say like, oh, well, why don't people ever do this with Jokic or Steph Curry? It's like, well, because those guys never leave open the possibility. And I realize Giannis has also said things that seem to close the possibility, but every time, you know, he says something that is like, I'm never going to ask for a trade request, then, you know, we'll look at where we are like a few weeks later. Right. So, so a lot of this is like his own making, and there's strategic reasons for that, which I get it, you know, control reasons for doing that. So, you know, but at the end of the day, like I just sort of come back to the fact that, especially if these trades are giving me like nobody that I find, I mean, like Tyler Harrow and Khalil Ware and Andrew Wiggins or whatever. I mean, you know what? Like, let's bring Herb Cole back. You know, he will be resurrected at that team, and people getting excited about that team, you know, going for like the 8th and 7th seed and that being like the best they can ever do. And I realized somebody's like, oh, well, right now you're not even the 8th. Yeah, I get it. Like this team's like just, completely crashed into the plane has crashed into the mountain with this version of this team. But this is the other piece of this too. It's like, the Bucks are at once like very far from competing for a championship. But it's like, we've talked about all year, like, look at the Celtics roster that's second in the East. Like, look at what the Suns have done. If you get, like a coaching staff that like actually, and you get like the right pieces and you hit on a young guy and you develop some stuff.
Look at Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's
Joel
not
Embiid didn't ask out mainly because
and it's not
wanted him.
Yeah,
but,
it's not a like for like, but last year, all of it's over with Joel Embiid. That they're gonna have to trade him, and who's gonna want him. There's even the like to a lesser extent. You sure about Nick Nurse? Like this just isn't working. And what does this mean for Daryl? And like, well, this era's over. They're gonna have to blow the whole thing up. They shut Joel Embiid down. He's healthy now. I mean, there were some hiccups, and we were all wondering all throughout the offseason and the start of the season, but
probably won't last.
He's never gonna be prime Joel, but like he's at least healthy again. And you get that type of pick with VJ Edgecombe, and all of a sudden, like, okay, now we're cooking with fire here. We're cooking with gas. You get Edgecombe added to Maxey. Embiid is back to some extent, and like starting to fall into place here. Like, not the same scenario of assets that the Bucks have. I get that, but like Giannis is shut down. That may be the best thing for him if you can navigate this thing where we're just rehab and like let's rest the calf, let's work on that. A summer of not playing basketball, you're back recharged next year. We could get, a best case scenario, the second pick. We could get the 4th or 5th pick, and we get an impactful player now. We got guys like Rollins, we got Miles Turner. We feel like adding that high draft pick to this, plus we got other picks that we could then open up with other contracts and say this is what we're using to add that third guy. Like, we feel really good about the roster then. So like, crazier things have happened.
Yeah, or if they had picked Keyshawn George instead of
or
AJ
there's
Johnson,
that
which we saw tonight. Like Keyshawn George actually is like so shockingly really good in year 2, really 15-5-5, and talk about like
desperate for a big wing and a 3.
Yeah, and like he's not only did like the Bucks have to give him like their best wing of the last whatever few decades, but they also didn't pick Keyshawn George when apparently they had promised him. Whatever. So anyway, but yeah, just things can change quickly, and obviously it's not going to happen with this coaching staff. I don't know if it happens with this front office. I don't know if it happens certainly with this group of players, right? Obviously there has to be changes to the roster. That's pretty obvious. But again, like the season is long, stuff happens, the Clippers, like the Clippers were nowhere, and then they go on this massive run and they figure stuff out. It's just basketball's a weird sport. The season's long. Unfortunately, I thought
that was the end of your statement. The season's long.
Yeah, unfortunately, like it seems like I don't know how you would characterize it as Doc and the coaches have lost the team, or I don't know. It's just weird, right? Because it's just like, 3 weeks ago, you could have looked at the stats and Giannis had like his best on-court rating of his like since the first MVP season, and they were crazy. It was like crazy how good they were when Giannis was on the floor. Yeah. And then, like in the span of 2 weeks, like just the wheels completely fall off. They have bad losses. They didn't play well with Giannis on the floor. And then obviously he gets injured. And so it's just, it's just like one of those things. And it kind of makes me think, Justin, like someone once shared this a bit of advice. I can't remember who said, I can't remember if it was like somebody I know told me, or if I read it somewhere, but it was about kids and sports and activities and things like that. Cause I had my daughter, who's now just turned 8. She was in swimming lessons, and she just was like, not like, this was like a couple years ago, she was like not making progress, and was just like, man, she's just like not figuring this out. She wasn't having a good time. And she like brought up the idea of like quitting swimming lessons. And it's kind of like, like, let's be honest, it's not like quitting, a sport where it's just like you just don't have to ever play that sport. Like you kind of want to have a kid who knows how to swim, right? So I didn't want her to quit.
So you became a Marinovich father and just really instilled it.
And so I read or heard or something, just somebody mentioned this idea of, telling kids like, okay, it's okay to want to quit something, right? Like you don't have to I'm not the type of person, I'm never going to like force them to do something that they don't want to do. But quit on a good day. Like quit on a day that it wasn't the worst day where, you had a terrible time and whatever like that, right? Like that's sort of, the loser mindset is, oh, some things go against me and, we have like a bad 2 weeks and like all this crap happens, like I'm out, And that's kind of like where the Bucks are right now, right? Is just everything just kind of broke bad. And again, not that like things were great, like, a month ago, but, like you look at the way they were playing and, certainly results, what Giannis is doing when he came back from the injury, right? This is like right after Christmas, right? With, Chicago, the Charlotte, I can't remember. They had a couple other wins there and, whatever, right? And again, just like a few others. I mean, even the road trip, right? The road trip was fine. Like if they just take care of business in Denver, they have a 3-1 road trip, right? They, they ultimately like even made that Golden State game pretty close. So it's not like things were, things were not like the disaster of all disasters, and then I don't know what happened. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how quickly we'll find out. I'm sure there will be stories, explanations, people getting thrown under the bus.
I'm sure of.
Now we found out stories, I think, especially obviously if and when Giannis does get traded, if and when Doc gets shown the exit. I don't think Doc's is gonna, probably be a guy that keeps the lid on any interesting stories. So that's sort of my view is like, and I don't know if it's more message for Giannis or the Bucks or us as fans, but like, like, I don't know, just think about it. Like I just like people get, especially you read Twitter, like during games, so like people just get like so emotional and I get it. Like I get annoyed. I fire off snarky tweets and things like that. But like, sometimes it just seems like it manifests with people just wanting to like, again, like take the best player, greatest player in franchise history and just like, we got to get it. We got to move on from this guy. And, and like, I don't know, like there's people in my DM saying like, oh, he's, like he's not trying on defense. It's like, look, I know, it's like, oh, he's not showing up at these games. Like, you know what? Like all these are like valid micro criticisms and all that.
Right. But you're right. Let's just ignore the record and the plus minus and everything else. Like,
yeah,
you're
like,
right.
Let's back up. Right. Because I think the reality is like the Bucks' chances of competing meaningfully. I'll say it that. And then maybe I'm not going to say like, oh, like winning a second title. Let's just say like competing meaningfully. I think like there's much more of a chance if you do basically like something like what happened in Philly, this year's the lost year. You need some luck in the draft, blah, 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 new coaching staff, etc. And maybe you do, make a gamble and trade some future asset, but for a guy that actually is going to like,
Jeremy
that
Grant,
actually,
we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. But for a guy that might like stick around longer, whatever it might be. So, again, it's just like, honestly, it's like not crazy that they could be a top 6 seed in the East, next year if some of these things kind of break the right way. And yeah, I mean, and again, like the other path is more comfortable. You can just sort of, casuals can just sort of turn their brains off and, not watch games and just sort of say like, oh, how's Ryan Rollins doing? But I don't know. I'm not a loser, Justin. I want to keep going for some stuff. And again, like, I mean, it's hard, right? Cause like, you gotta be super careful. Like yes, they'll have all these picks they can trade in the summer, but like, I probably would not, unless there was just some screaming.
We got to see everything that happens between now and the summer. And like, where does the 26 pick fall? What's the messaging that comes from Giannis? And like, how does that situation evolve? So that is a very a delicate situation for this group. There was one
Giannis plus Nance plus somebody that is now you have something, Justin. Pete Nance, Giannis, something. What is the something? That's what we got to figure out.
Pete Nance is your 3. There's one other interesting thing Thursday, earlier in the day. 2 things to be exact. So I want to get your thoughts, see if you saw or are aware of what one of them I assume you saw, but get your thoughts on some more messaging that came out from the team earlier in the day. So we'll get to that coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. It's Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. So whether you're backing the favorites, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And of course, the trade deadline is now less than a week away. We want to give you a free month of the Everydayer Club to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, we invite you to join ours, the exclusive Locked On Bucks Discord channel that's out there, national channels as well, where you can hang out with Bucks fans or other fans across the league. You also get ad-free versions of this show. And if you sign up before the trade deadline on February 5th, use the code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Earlier in the day, I mean, I would assume you saw some of the images at least, but Peter Fagan was honored at a key to the city. Giannis was there, and like that in itself isn't surprising. Like, Peter Fagan had a very close relationship with a lot of the players, and especially Giannis. I believe they arrived like 1 year apart from each other, so pretty close there. So it's no surprise that Giannis would show up to be there for it. John Horst was there as well, and look, I don't expect there to be any iciness that you're projecting, but like, if you're trying to be the body language doctor and read, like, let's see if there's any awkwardness, there was none of that. That it was just like business as usual with all 3 of those guys together in the same setting. And Peter Fagan was on Sirius XM on the Brian Scalabrine and Frank Isola show. Did you hear any of that this morning? Are you a Sirius XM guy? No. Okay. So he was on that show, and he's been on that show quite a bit through the years. I found it fascinating because it's a guy who, in respect to Peter, I don't want to say has one foot out the door, but we're close to the end of the line with him, that it felt like he was a lot more liberated and was not as buttoned up with some of his responses, where the message from him was basically a lot of what we heard, that there's been a lot of outside noise that is unfortunately kind of crept inside the walls, and that started to impact everything. We have disappointed, and he was very blunt. This has been a disappointing season. We have not matched our expectations, yada, yada, yada. But said, like, basically, I think this stuff can start to wear on you, and like the outside chatter that's been there from day one, eventually it can start to kind of penetrate these walls, and then it kind of gets you to the point where, I think he's open to exploring all options now. That was the first type of message that we heard from anyone within the group that was anything other than the, like, this is not true, I don't know where this is coming from, and why I've been running with this, where it was like, look, we're not looking to trade him. There's been a lot of this that's driving force behind it. But like, I do think this wears on you, and it forces him to say, now more than ever, I do have to consider these things. Uh-oh, do we still have you, Frank? All right. Well, Frank is recalibrating.
I don't know,
Oh,
the
here we
idea
go.
of us wanting to leave because people always talk about anything like that. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, the idea that he wanted to leave because of people kind of forcing it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, the idea that like Giannis eventually is wanting to leave, it was he would that would make him more take shots at Shams, which I think probably kind of related to maybe some of that. Although, it seems like probably the call is coming from inside the building. Giannis, that one, call your agents. If you're, I'm not, it's sort of one of those things that's just like exhausting to try to monitor this stuff like day to day, honestly. Um, and there's so much just like conjecture. And that's one of the hard parts with Giannis stuff is it seems like so much of the reporting over the years is like based on what other teams think is like want to happen because
yeah,
we know what other teams want to happen. Like they want to
right,
destabilize
right.
the Bucks and they want to try to get him for not that much. I want to know what's actually happening, like in the
Within those
building in
walls. Yeah,
Milwaukee,
yeah,
and with Giannis's people, and obviously there's like a subset of folks that are at least somewhat plugged in. Um, but yeah, I mean it's you know, and I think I mean look like certainly at this point, right? Like it's important to understand like what some of these teams are thinking about, right? Like I've always felt like the Spurs probably should not add Giannis. I don't think Victor and Giannis are like I think they're two alphas. I don't think they would work well together. Um, and that's like a problem for the Bucks, right? If teams like the Spurs and Rockets, especially like mid-season, it makes sense. Like those
mhm,
teams are not going to try to like upset the apple cart. I
yeah,
think, that's another example where, I think with teams like the Spurs and Rockets, probably your only chance at getting them into a bidding is if like they just are completely exposed in the
yeah.
playoffs
Flame
in
out in the
some respect.
playoffs. Yeah,
And then they, get like a measure of desperation to try to, do something different. Although with both teams, like their timelines, like I just don't know that they line up to where Giannis is. Um, and the flip side being like the Knicks and Heat, I think are both limited in the number of first round picks that they can offer now. Like I think they both can offer like multiple more picks, if they did something in the summer. Um, and again, I don't love their offers anyway, because like there's like nobody like from a talent perspective that
yeah,
like you
but
would feel
I
happy
mean,
about unless you like three-wayed something, with like
well,
Bridges or something.
yeah, I I suppose, but I've also been led to believe like the package the Heat would offer, you can like, yeah, we can't give you a ton of picks, but you can turn Jonas into 3 first round picks, and then you can do the same with Tyler Hero. So you're actually getting like 9 first rounders.
I mean, it's basically the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander trade for Paul George all over again, really. Um, who's to say that, Tyler Hero isn't going to become an NBA MVP if he just gets back to the home state that doesn't really like him that
I
much?
also love that that's the sell, and they've tried to like the Bucks are marks. Here's what we can do. Like, who do we have that's from Wisconsin? Oh, yeah, this guy got Wisconsin ties, so of course you're gonna want these 2 guys, and we'll find some picks to give you.
It is yeah. I mean, Jalen Johnson, I mean, I
Yeah,
do think that like makes a lot more sense. Again, I don't I I totally get it if like the Hawks wouldn't really be interested on that. Although the the funny part is like if you didn't give up Jalen Johnson in a Giannis trade, you should probably trade Jalen Johnson if you're the Hawks for some other stuff because he makes very little sense with
makes
Giannis.
sense
They're
next to
they're
him.
totally
Yeah,
duplicative.
yeah.
Jalen Johnson isn't going to make any more All-Star games if he's playing with Giannis because he's not going to have the ball and he's not going to get eight assists a game, and he
Well,
doesn't
if they
space the
told
floor
you you
well.
could have one of the 2, which would you rather have, Jalen Johnson or that Pelicans pick?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, I think the odds of the uncertain, we don't know where the pick will be,
Yeah,
and we don't obviously know how good even any of the supposed sort of surefire guys are ever actually going to be.
yeah.
I might lean towards Jalen Johnson just because, like, he looks like he's going to be a perennial all star.
Most improved player in the
And
league, yeah.
I I don't know that you can bank on anybody.
Yeah,
Like
and
if
like,
you
what
told,
happens if and what happens if both of those picks slide down where you think,
yeah,
like, we could get 1 and 2, like, oh, we actually have 9 and 10.
yeah. So I would probably say Jalen Johnson, and especially given the fact that the Bucks don't control their draft essentially through the end of the
Yeah,
decade. Um, and selfishly, like I don't want the Bucks to just be like horrendous with
bad.
no benefit of like draft picks. Like I would rather have them like have at least like a a good player to like put up some stats with Ryan Rollins.
I thought we
Um,
established Pete Nance was here to stay. I'm
well,
correct.
okay, sorry, yeah, exactly. Like you know Johnson Nance 2028. Like put it on the ticket. Um, so yeah, I would probably say Jalen Johnson. Although again, like maybe you could. I mean, honestly, though, you would probably argue if you're trying to maximize like your championship equity, like
Yeah,
maybe you would just say like screw it. Like Jalen
alright, we'll
Johnson
take
is
the
not going to
pick.
be the best player on a championship team.
Yeah,
So roll the dice on trying to get like one of those top 3-4 guys and then hoping that they end up being just this like super duper stars. If you told me it was a definite top 3 pick, I think I'd probably take the top 3 pick. And
yes.
again, not that I know a ton about the draft, but just hearing the way people are talking about the guys in this year's draft. But yeah, so I don't know. But again, I do not think they're going to get Jalen Johnson and the New
No.
Orleans / Bucks pick. I think that's pretty obvious. I think probably you can maybe get some better offers this summer after teams have flamed out and have some desperation because
Disappointed, yeah.
they didn't win a championship. Um, but you're kind of playing with fire. And I will say this too. Like, I mean, my kind of line in the sand has always been like, well, you gotta say, Giannis, we're gonna offer you a $275 million extension. What are you gonna do? If he says no, then then I would say at that point, if he says like, I don't want to be here, I'm not signing an extension, then I would say like, okay, you got to trade him at that point.
Yeah,
Um, if he's like, I don't know, like, let's see how it goes.
yeah,
It's hard, but like, keep in mind this, like, even if he goes to free agency in 2027, I haven't looked at the cap sheets, but it's not like teams store up $70 million in cap space these days to sign free agents
yeah,
outright. Like
yeah.
guys generally, like even if
Free
they go to
agency
free
is
agency,
trades.
it's probably going to be a sign and trade, if it ever got to that point. And again, can you get as much in that scenario? Maybe, maybe not. But there's also just sort of value in like continuing to like have a chance to be relevant as a franchise because you have Giannis, and that goes away if you trade him. So yeah, I mean, look, like it sucks. I mean, fundamentally, it sucks. But I just, again, my view is like when you have a Giannis, I mean, the Giannis, because it's not like he's a one of one. You just try to keep that guy as long as you can, and part of that is just like the calculus of trying to have an amazing player, and part of it also is just like, I mean, I guess I haven't like said it, but to be clear, like he is our guy. I think I did say he was the greatest player in franchise history. He is the guy for this franchise. The world is better if Giannis never plays for another team,
Yeah.
even if that means that maybe his chance at winning a second championship is a little bit lower. But he's probably not winning a championship elsewhere. And if he doesn't win a championship in New York or wherever else, then like that sucks. Like that's a knock on his legacy. He would have been better
It's a
off staying here.
disappointment, right, yeah. I
Um,
mean, and we talked
so,
about it at the time too with the Dame exit of, like, you saw firsthand, like, how this goes, that the
mm,
expectations are heightened and, um, like, obviously not unanimously, but, like, the majority of blank probably harsh, but the majority of people were like, "Wow, I can't believe it didn't work with Dame." Like, well, Dame was older and yada yada yada.
mm,
Like that, the new guy is the one that's going to get the blame. So if you go somewhere else and fall short, why didn't Giannis work out here? Like we thought it was going to mean this, and then you. I don't mean it to sound too harsh, but to your point too, you ultimately just become a guy that, yeah, he won a championship and he put up great numbers, but like he only got one. Whereas like if you get that one and you stay, you're Dirk and you're cemented forever.
yeah. So it's hard. I mean, again, Giannis is a competitor. I don't think I'm sure his inclination would be like, if you put me on a good team, then it gives me a chance at a championship, and that's what I
Right.
want, right? Because I get it. I mean, he's
Yeah,
probably sick of
I
like
get
he
it.
hasn't played meaningful basketball.
Mediocrity and yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so I totally get it. So again, like I will not blame him for anything that he does or doesn't do. But yeah, I mean, I would rather ride off into the sunset, even if that means, you know, like there isn't a great chance at a
A
championship
chance,
again.
yeah, and it's yeah.
But you know, I just think it's easier to be or build a relevant team with Giannis than
With him.
without it, you know. And especially just given sort of the kind of value that we've been hearing about. So it is what it is. Somehow this doesn't feel like the last time we're going to talk about it, Justin, but
No, it does not. It should be a pretty interesting week here next week with the trade deadline, 6
Pete
days.
Nance watch, Pete
Oh,
Nance watch, you know, it's gonna be
Scott, I
good.
mean, if that's the package for Giannis, I wonder what Pete Nance would yield here. So we'll
They
keep our eye out.
gotta, hey, if they want to save the season, let's open up a roster spot here and get him you know, a multi-year contract. I think they technically still have their part of their room mid-level
Room,
exception.
they do. Yep.
So just give Pete Nance some of that sweet room mid-level exception money.
So, I mean, the way things have gone with all of our other sports teams in the state, Frank, there's a trade and then somebody poaches Pete Nance and signs him to a guaranteed contract off of your two-way spot. So, yes, we'll have plenty more to get to next week when the trade deadline is finally here, and we'll have a little more clarity, at least in the short term, on the Giannis situation. One more time, we thank everyone, as always, for tuning in today, whether or not that was your first listen of the day, but at some point today, make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes, get notified when we go live as well. And again, if you never miss an episode, then the Everydayer Club is what's built for you. You get Locked On Bucks ad free, plus members only Discord access and more. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes of today's episode. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make that your second listen, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. For Frank, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again next week on Locked On Bucks.